All right, I am so happy to be here with today's guest who helped transform a 1 month New York pop-up into one of the most recognizable experiential brands in the world. Manish Vora is the co-founder and CEO of the Museum of Ice Cream, the immersive world of color, nostalgia, play, and of course, unlimited ice cream. When the Museum of Ice Cream first opened in New York's Meatpacking District in 2016, the idea was relatively simple: create a joyful, imaginative experience around something almost universally loved. But the response was anything but small. 30,000 tickets reportedly sold within the first 5 days, and what began as a temporary summer project became a cultural phenomenon. Manish, welcome. What an amazing thing you've done.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So it's especially cool because since then in New York, the Museum of Ice Cream has expanded across the United States and into Singapore, opened a 25,000 square foot flagship in Soho, collaborated with major global brands, welcomed millions of visitors, and helped establish an entirely new category of immersive entertainment. So I am so excited to have you here. I want to hear more about what happened in New York in 2016. The Museum of Ice Cream was supposed to be a temporary pop-up. Did you know from the beginning that there was a real company inside of the idea?
Well, I never would have imagined today, with now six museums, including the recently opened Las Vegas Museum, opened globally, flagship locations, and now seeing close to 2 million visitors on an annual basis. When we were selling those first tickets, we barely knew of whether we could get the doors open. We had 30 days to open the entire experience. But interestingly, the Museum of Ice Cream, that first version in the Meatpacking District, was this formula was the same. The vision was that we were going to design for adults. The experience was designed for adults to tap into your inner child. We wanted to juxtapose the Whitney Museum downtown with the Museum of Ice Cream, but still not downplay how important aesthetics and design were. So it was beautifully designed, but it wasn't meant to be, in my wildest dreams, this, company. It really was trying to fit this need. And I had spent nearly a decade in the art world in New York, trying to build experiences that were democratizing art. And this was the biggest insight, was that I was creating experiences, and I had just been working on this experiential venue in the Flatiron. And we would have brands that would spend $500,000 on a beauty event and spend most of their money on digital content, technology, surround technology. And if I did an immersive nitrogen ice cream station and had a really cool, ice cream maker on the site, we would get more social media amplification and more reviews mentioning that ice cream than the $200,000 brand moment on the walls. And ice cream was that aha moment and what really transformed our thinking. And did we believe that, or were we even thinking ahead 10 years now? It's 10 years to the date that we would have this network of ice cream museums. It wasn't. It wasn't the case at all. We were really looking 1 foot forward. It's like we wanted to get this physical experience created. And anyone who's built physical things in the world, retail shops, doctors' offices, it is incredibly hard to create something in the physical world here. Much more difficult than the digital world, especially with AI now. But it was definitely not in my wildest dreams.
There are thousands of products that could have inspired an immersive experience. So, why do you think ice cream has such an unusual emotional power? Is it the taste? Is it everything we associate with it? Celebration, summer? Or is it the permission to be less serious? What do you think it is about ice cream?
I'll ask you, what does ice cream mean to you? Like as a child, how is it connected in your life from childhood to now?
Yeah, ice cream is birthday parties, fun, summertime, relaxation, indulgence. I mean, all that nostalgia and
And
reminiscence.
you're hitting upon all of these elements. It's the most universally loved food, and there's no argument. It's in every country. There is not a comparable. This is number one. And the insight, I would say, came later. All of this data of saying ice cream is the most universally loved, it's the most accessible food item, it's the most social media food at the time in 2015 and 2016 when we were doing, none of that was what really drove the element. What was a simple thing was that if you went down in the East Village on one street where I lived at the time, you could go to four ice cream shops in the middle of winter and they were all had lines out the door of people our age, people in their 20s and 30s at the time, who were going to experience ice cream as adults and waiting in line in a time where we were talking about retail apocalypse. We were already talking about social media bringing this generation, away. This is a decade ago, and people were already having that conversation. Imagine now. So that conversation existed even a decade ago, but people were ultimately always drawn to, as you said, that childhood nostalgia. Often it's the first time you actually ever purchased something as a kid. Your parents might have given you money. So that transaction, that empowerment for you to not only choose your flavor, let alone pay for it, is a actually a massive experience. Then you think about all those moments, your memories as a kid, birthday parties. It's also multi-generational. You remember eating ice cream with your parents after dinner. It's something that you loved, that your parents loved, that your grandparents loved, that your siblings loved. And it's such a connector. And we use that power from the moment you walk into the museum. You transform your name. Your name is not Lara Devgan. Like you're going to be, the Dr. Ice Cream and Dr. Sprinkles or whatever your ice cream name is going to be, because it's so easy to break the ice. And that's, I think, one of the things that's so critical about the Museum of Ice Cream. The Museum of Ice Cream is a museum of icebreakers, and it always has been designed in that way. It's a series of rituals and ice breaking. And that's what ice cream has done for all of us since we were a kid. It's always been an icebreaker. You just didn't know it.
I totally understand what you're saying because you're not simply designing colorful rooms. You're trying to influence how people feel and how they interact with one another in an increasingly digital world. Can joy actually be designed? And to the extent that it can be, how do you create and manufacture joy?
Well, this is a topic I love to jump on, and I would be remiss to say that I haven't been heavily influenced from our collective alma mater, from Laurie Santos at Yale, who teaches a class on happiness and really studies joy and happiness and social connection and human connection. And yes, there is actual data. There's actual science around how you can create moments and create experiences that create this element of connection and joy, and that leads to happiness. Scientifically leads to happiness. And so for us, there's several things. Like if we achieve you meeting one stranger, we have created something that's unique in this world, where you have had a positive interaction with the stranger, which creates joy. You having that element of the physical sensory components of not just eating the ice cream, it's what it's served in, the pink spoon, the pink cup, the pink napkin. All of these elements of that aesthetic and design play into some elements of psychology. It's not just taste. So when you go into our museums, from day one, we have scent, we have smell, we have touch, we have play. We are making you interact, and often we're rewarding you for positive social behavior with ice cream. You will never receive ice cream. We do not say, stand in line. It's a pink wall with an ice cream. We're just handing you an ice cream. We're going to come in and say, declare your ice cream name. Tell us who you are. Tell us your favorite ice cream flavor. Play this game with us. We're going to literally play in Vegas. You are going to have to roll the dice, literally in our hotel
So
casino.
funny.
You're going to literally roll the dice before you can, get to the next step. And so the design is architected as this journey to take you on a series of icebreakers, and we're rewarding you with ice cream all the way along. And that's part of the whole experience design of what we do. And to last thing I would say is that there's just the biggest misnomer when people who haven't been to the Museum of Ice Cream is that they might know the iconic photos of Beyonce or Kim Kardashian in the sprinkle pool, or our iconic 1905 Sea Pink that if you're watching on video, you can see behind us, because we have that Pantone trademarked for the Museum of Ice Cream. It's so much more, and it always has been. There's always games, there's always play. You are coming to play an experience. You're not coming to see something. You're not capturing memories that are flat anymore. And so the misnomer of folks who think about social media is that social media today, more than ever with TikTok and stories and reels, are a capture of a memory generally, not of a single moment or a single piece of aesthetic.
I love how you've made joy feel authentic by forcing people to use all five of their senses to participate in it. You mentioned the sprinkle pool, and I want to come back to the sprinkle pool moment because that became one of the most defining visual symbols of the Museum of Ice Cream. And today, immersive installments and highly photographable spaces are everywhere, but that was much less common in 2016. Did you immediately understand that the sprinkle pool would become an iconic moment?
Yes, that this is something where at the time we had the idea of Museum of Ice Cream, but the sprinkle pool was the core tenet of this idea. And it was really authentic. Not that, again, we weren't thinking at this point, this was a project. We were not thinking company. We were thinking at one point, we actually, before the Museum of Ice Cream, we would thought about building a sprinkle pool on my rooftop in NoHo. And thank God we didn't. It ended up being like 10,000 pounds. It could have like collapsed the balcony. But we just wanted it to be made because it was based on my co-founder Mary Alice's dream as a child, where she always imagined when she was on the Pacific Ocean, the ocean was filled with sprinkles. And she would just have this wild memory, she had this memory of imagining the Pacific Ocean as a sea of sprinkles. And that became, what does that translate into in urban New York? And we were like literally living in New York, and we're like, it's impossible. I've never really swam in New York City. There was a Soho House pool. There's not really swimming pools. And I never did the public, the public pools in Williamsburg or something. And so a swimming pool in New York City is the biggest luxury that you can imagine. And so we took this idea of actually the sprinkle pool as a luxury item. And I think if the rest of the country, maybe swimming pools are not as thought of as luxury as it is in New York City because it's so rare. But when you see our sprinkle pools from day one, you can see, and anybody who's visited now one of our 13 different sprinkle pools that we built over the last decades, they are highly designed and unique. Each diving board, they're ephemeral. There are things abstract where there's stairs or diving boards up on the ceiling. There's slides coming through. The tiling is perfect. The colors are different and unique, and it's color themed. This is not a swimming pool of a that you would design for your kids in a blow up swimming pool. And I think that's so critical, that the differentiation is that we are not dumbing down this and saying this is a ball pit. The ball pit of Chuck E. Cheese, the ball pit of McDonald's from your childhood is not the sprinkle pool of the Museum of Ice Cream. And again, the sprinkle pool is, while it's a core tenet of it, it's part of the journey. It always comes towards the end of your experience. You've already spent 90 minutes to 3 hours eating unlimited ice cream, exploring, playing games, changing your ice cream name, going down 5 slides, going down in Vegas, a world's largest ice cream buffet before you are deciding whether you want to jump in this beautiful, beautiful sprinkle pool, swimming pool. So I hate when people say sprinkle pit because it's truly a swimming pool.
You have to dignify it with the proper title. So, when one idea like the sprinkle pool becomes so closely associated with your brand, how do you continue evolving without abandoning this thing that people love the most?
Yeah, so many things have changed from the sprinkles to the slides to the shapes of the pools to the colors to even the design. Yeah, as even the material of the sprinkles has changed over 10 years. But at the end of the day, it's just one piece. And our sprinkle pools are less than 10% of the square footage of these massive museums. There's, as you said, 25 to 30,000 square feet. We're talking 3 stories in Soho. People always get, when they come down on Broadway between Prince and Spring and you're going through this small storefront, they don't realize it's a 3 story building that goes all the way down to Crosby and double wide on the other side. And all of a sudden you are confused on where you're going. You've spent, as I said, 90 minutes in the museum before you've even entered into the sprinkle bowl. So while it's iconic and we love and celebrate it, we keep innovating, it's a part of a journey. It's part of a journey. And I say we haven't succeeded unless Dr. Lara Devgan is jumping in the sprinkles
I
herself.
have been in it, Manish. I have literally been in the sprinkle
Yes.
pool.
That's
So
the only way I would have come on your podcast.
we've achieved success
Yes.
officially. So I want to talk a little bit about how you went from a pop-up to a global brand, because many pop-ups create buzz on social media and in the real world, but very few become enduring international businesses. What was the hardest part of turning cultural excitement into an organization and a company that would actually scale? And basically, how did you go from small to big?
Yeah, I think that the the journey has been littered with how we respond to failure, challenge, disruption, and mistakes. And I have made so many mistakes and have had to become a better leader. And we've had to adapt to so many things that have happened, from COVID to so many other challenges of getting open and the difficulty in opening in markets like Los Angeles, where, not just businesses, but homes like are doing so much to get permitted in a city, and just the structure of opening. So I think that building a brand was first and foremost that we were open to listening, learning, and adapting. And our audience has changed. What people don't necessarily know, and those who went in the meatpacking district or Los Angeles when we were in those early pop-ups in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Miami, and New York, it was 90% adults. The museum was built for an adult aesthetic, an adult eyesight. So the everything was not really, kids were having a great time, but our mission was focused on how do we create joy and connection for adults. As time wore on, we had to understand that 50% of our audience is coming in with kids. And we needed to try to do both. And that's really also challenging. So, from a brand standpoint, it's about being patient, it's about growing. It's about, for us, we took an approach where we did pop ups, and we did 7 pop ups where we felt like every pop up we could learn. Every museum had different elements. We had maybe a core tenant like the sprinkle pool, but the vast majority of our experiences inside the museum were learning and testing whether we want to do ice cream names this way, what installations are working, do we want heavier technology. We've partnered with everyone from Yale's advanced computer graduate program to build interactive games, to just building fully analog hanging bananas, and what works, and finding that balance of how do we incorporate technology into what is a very highly analog experience. So I would say that the brand building, for one, is just continuing to focus on the identity of what we do, which is driving connection and joy. And then all of those pieces came, like you said, Target, then Sephora. I wouldn't have imagined us having a beauty collaboration in all 600 stores in Sephora nationwide when I was set out to do this. This was definitely not a goal. And those opportunities, and making sure you're partnering with the right high quality partners um, as you come up and you build, and being patient. I'd say the last thing I would say is what I give as a lesson that you probably say all the time, because there's so many opportunities coming down your avenue, is learning how to say no is really, really hard when you have so many ideas. And creatives, entrepreneurs, we're all filled with ideas, and just holding back on how do you prioritize and say no is as important, if not more important, to building a global brand than the yeses you say to.
Are there a few examples of situations or ideas that you really liked and wanted to succeed, but ended up not working out, that failed ideas, you had to abandon them and pivot?
I mean, so many installation ideas that I can tell you. So I was really passionate about pop rocks. This is only something that can come on your podcast where the founder is talking about pop rocks. But that's that crackle, that joy, and just was determined to create an experience in San Francisco to make a pop rocks room where like the room was like crackling and you were in a pop rocks cave, as if
So
you
cool.
were mining for pop rocks.
You're a
And
true 90s child.
yes, and now 90s are so in. So maybe we were just 9 years early on the pop rocks, but while the I still think the joy of putting pop rocks in your mouth is still there. We just could not figure out how to make that installation work. So there's so many elements, right? The what we love to say is the museum has unlimited. We have an unlimited palette of not just colors, of toppings, of candy, of all these things that incorporate that I still associate with ice cream. And by the way, if you put pop rocks on ice cream, it's really, really good. So there's a ton of there's a ton of installation ideas. There's a ton of collaborations. We did an ice cream festival for National Ice Cream Day in Los Angeles, and we are experts at building these experiences and building a festival around ice cream for one day was really, really challenging and it was a completely different skill set. So, just trying to being open to testing, trying and saying this doesn't work is part of the energy, right? Which is to continue to innovate for a brand, you have to try things. And some of them work and some of them don't. And it's I would say just keep iterating.
So let's talk about the major leap. By 2019, the Museum of Ice Cream Company had raised a reported $40 million dollars at a reported valuation of approximately $200 million. Dollars. Soon afterward, you opened the permanent Soho flagship. So this is a major transition from an imaginative founder-led pop-up to a highly valued company with permanent real estate, employees, investors, expectations, all of the seriousness of the adult world. How did that change your job as a founder? And did you ever worry that bringing more structure into the business would diminish the spontaneity that made the Museum of Ice Cream special in the first place?
So all of the things are true around there is a shift when you go from a founder-led business or an independent business without capital, and there's a ton of challenges that are continue. Now, 7 years later from opening New York, that Soho location was really our first plant in the ground. This is not a pop-up that was 30 days or not 35 days in New York. We are going to be in Soho for 20 years, and we've already been here for 7 years. It'll be 10 years since I was on the Kardashian show to when I was keeping up with the Kardashians in Los Angeles. And I can't believe it. It happens like that. So those elements of scale and professional and building a company, I would say what is hard. It's a hard personal transition and you don't get it right. And it's often very difficult for founders to transition into that role. And I continue to learn. I continue to learn and develop that. I would say from the consumer side and the creative side that that's one area where we have never been worried because the people coming in, the creative energy in the company is that there's just so much to work on and so many opportunities to be creative. And to me, even for myself, I'm a big advocate of the artist way. I don't know if you've read Julia Cameron's book. I highly recommend this book to unlock creativity. I didn't admit that I was a creative until 4 years ago. I had built and helped support building and creating and designing experiences for 7 years. But in my mind, I worked on Wall Street, then worked in the art world, was an entrepreneur, but I couldn't self-identify as a creative. And I think what's been really cool is that if somebody overhears our team meetings and we're like debating the mirrors and the bananas or the strawberry room or a s'mores suite or a freezer thing where snow is coming, like it's like is this really our job? So the creativity is actually like unlocked with so much more collaboration, and everybody is bringing their dreams and their ideas. And in fact, our biggest advisors and creatives are our guests, where kids are coming in and being like, "I want to build this one, this. I want to have this museum. I want to build a museum of unicorns that are, drinking strawberry out of a strawberry river." There's just that element of creativity and ideas that actually expanded the creativity and the potential. But certainly, to your point, the challenge of moving into from a creative idea has been historically and even personally like very difficult. So I would say, this still have a lot of stress during that transition where I still, love the idea of being a traveling circus. But what's the benefit is that now we get to deliver this to millions and millions of people and just bring them out of joy and being able to hire and have so many employees now from this company that was, once, three people in a traveling circus is, feels like a true privilege, but it's also difficult.
Well, you've created an entirely new category. The Museum of Ice Cream didn't simply enter an established industry. It helped to popularize a new category that's kind of at the intersection of museum, hospitality, entertainment, retail, food, social media, experience. So you're kind of in this new area that the intersection of all these different Venn diagrams. What was it like building something when there was no established playbook?
I think that what's interesting is that now everybody, immersive design, immersive experiences, immersive museums, experiential, that word, maybe 10 years ago, people were like, what is experiential? What does that even mean? And we coined experience, like experience venues. And yeah, we were very much at the forefront of this phase of this, but we're still in the first inning. I like to say what you're seeing now, Netflix has Netflix House. Universal has built a next to us in Las Vegas, next in Area 15, Universal Horror Unleashed. This is their first, our kind of box outside of an amusement park for Universal. This is the second largest after Disney parks company in the world is now building museum of ice cream type experiences that are linear, that you go through these things. We never imagined that Universal would be building this 10 years ago. But what is the opportunity is that everything is an iteration of something else. And to be honest, like I would be remiss to say that my playbook, some people now and many concepts would say, yes, Museum of Ice Cream was part of their playbook. And we certainly know that there were literally thousands of folks, including direct copycats of Museum of Ice Cream that we had, to have challenges and they're going to fill their pools with something else and those elements. But Warhol, all these artists, Kusama, Murakami, there were so many creatives who've come from the past that inspired us. Sleep No More, and the group Punch Drunk out of London. If you've been to Sleep No More, it just closed in New York City. This was a huge inspiration for me. Immersive museums were exhibits. There was exhibits in museums that had these immersive designs that had time ticketed experiences. So I think that everything is often an iteration of things. So I would say there was even Secret Cinema, for example, was an experience that I was inspired to. So there's always rooting. So it's a privilege to have influenced other folks and now being able to get to advise and support other young entrepreneurs. No longer as as young as I was when I started in this industry now almost 20 years ago, where I started in the immersive art and experiential industry. So 20 years in, I still feel that same fresh feel where I believe we're not even scratching the surface. I like to think of this as movie theaters. There will be multiple experience venues like Museum of Ice Creams in every city, in Kansas City to New York City, where there will be 50 of them. So I do believe that we're still very much in the first inning. So I'm still excited about the next 10 to 20 years, especially with the counteraction of AI. I believe that immersive experiences and true interactive and participatory experiences are going to be what challenge you to get off your phone and off technology to have social experiences.
It's interesting because the initial skepticism that, a pink sprinkle pool was just for Instagram has now become the thing that pulls you away from your cell phone to have an IRL experience.
By the way, that's a beautifully said, right? Because
you can borrow that.
it's so critical because we never designed for social media. There was no social media for Museum of Ice Cream. We didn't have a photo. We had nothing built. We sold the first 30,000 tickets sold out New York City with zero images because there was nothing built. It was a graphic. We had no social media. So people, the idea, the joy, the interaction, that's what sells. That's what creates lasting brands. There is not, you know, there are brands who have used social media really well, and there's influencers in social media, but they're ultimately, they have to have an underlying product. They have to have an underlying quality or some element of their product for it to last.
A lot of entrepreneurs are told to begin by solving a practical problem. You built a business around something much less tangible, which is joy, nostalgia, play, and connection. What advice would you give to a founder whose idea evokes a powerful emotion but doesn't neatly fit into an existing market category?
It's such a great question because there's two elements of that. One is the practical problem is exactly what you just said, which is social media and our technology and our phones are disconnecting us, and we need to find opportunities and spaces. So there was an underlying practical problem, which is I actually don't think bars and restaurants, even 10 years ago, are particularly designed anymore, not all of them, to be what we call pro-social, to actually create connection. Um, and 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 so that connection solution is like, how do you create spaces where there is connection was a practical problem. But the emotional component of it is as important. And this is the same advice I give to kids. I actually did a kids podcast where I talk about how do you pursue your dreams? Like, how would I approach entrepreneurship? And the advice I said was find something you care about. And if you find something you care about and you're passionate about, that's enough as a foundation for you to start building something around. Because very likely, if it's something you care about and you're passionate about for a kid, many other people are going to be passionate about those things. So there's the counter element of like, do you need to solve a huge problem, which is the venture capital thesis, right? We did not, for 3 or 4 years, we did not raise any capital. We did not have that constraint where we were trying to go in and say, this is the total addressable market around connection and ice cream. We never had to do that pitch because what we said was, we freaking love ice cream. And so does everybody else. And there's a lot of long lines, and nobody's celebrating this. And it was based on that idea, which I didn't really fully explain, was that we went and searched for ice cream festivals. If we love ice cream this much and the ice cream shops are killing it, let's go to festivals that celebrate ice cream. And we went all the way down to Delaware where there was an ice cream festival, and it was a country fair with 3 ice cream trucks where I had more ice cream shops in New York City on my block. But it was still fun, but wasn't really an ice cream festival. And that was as simple of it. I wanted to be around other people who are celebrating the love of ice cream. That's simple. And so my advice is that I don't think the venture scaled AI, we don't all need to build SpaceX. We all don't need to build like scaled AI businesses. And the heart of creativity, and every artist, and I worked in the art world for 10 years, every artist in this day and age who makes a painting or makes music is an entrepreneur, is a business, has to, if they're trying to sell, they have to function as a business. And so same way is that nobody is discouraging a musician or an artist to go make art that they love and they care about and is their passion. And that's the same advice I would give, is that thinking about a business or company, for me, the way I approach it is first and foremost, is this something that like makes me smile and happy and creative? It's not, what does the data say? Is somebody going to really love, a giant marshmallow experience or s'mores? Like, I just love summer camp and I love s'mores, and we wanted to figure out how to create a s'mores experience in the museum.
You've spent more than a decade observing millions of people as they move through the Museum of Ice Cream. What do you understand about human beings or the human experience today that you did not understand when you opened the first Museum of Ice Cream in 2016?
I think play is fundamental to like our human experience, and that element of being able to tap into your inner child is not a it's in there for everybody. Everybody is capable of doing it, and the results and the joy and the ability for you to be open to new experiences, new people, trying new things is a mini version of that in an ice cream shop or the Museum of Ice Cream. When you go to an ice cream shop, it's one of the easiest places or only places where you're going to a place where they're saying, just try things. Try things before you buy them, and try a bunch, right? You can try different flavors. And that is in itself a permission for you to try something new, to play. And you don't get to go to a bar or a restaurant typically and say, like, can I like try out all the appetizers before I buy them? And there is some element of that I think is like so critical, that what we are underestimating. And 10 years ago, this is one of the big shifts. The narrative 10 years ago was that our kids are addicted to phones, that our teenagers are no longer going to be able to function. Then COVID happened, and young people were in the parks creating games, socializing. You're seeing, high school kids in schools who are like, we don't use social media. We're off our phones. We're not as engaged. I think it's as big of a challenge now for us as adults in our 30s and our 40s to dethether from our phone. And to me, that is the most important thing that we need to be focusing on, is that we are happier fundamentally, scientifically, watch Laurie Santos, watch all the data around this when we are in human social connection. And I think that while the convenience of home delivery and Uber Eats and all the things that make our lives more convenient using these devices, is that ultimately being in space with not just your own friends and family, but with strangers in community is fundamentally human. And so that to me is like something that we have to remind ourselves every single day.
Manish, it's been amazing speaking with you. I hope everyone has the opportunity to go to a museum of ice cream very soon. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.